Good evening, welcome to my channel. My name is David Kokun, and I'm talking about the cost of living. Thank you, everyone who supported my channel, who viewed the information, who watched the video, and thank you for sharing. Thank you for subscribing to my channel. If you have subscribed, if you haven't subscribed, thank you for accessing my channel today. And also thank you for your support. Please subscribe to this channel, and it helps it grow. And we've been talking about the cost of living, because the cost of living is a crisis. The cost of living is a crisis, and as human beings, we have a life to live. A lot of people have suffered, and so many people are suffering the cost of living. But a lot of people have also been resilient. They have been strong. They have been able to weather the storm, and they have always weathered the storm. So many people around the world have always survived, and that's why I'm talking about the cost of living as a crisis. Crisis is a way of life. When you are born, you experience a crisis during birth. And as you begin to develop, every stages of development, there's a crisis in life. And so, by nature, we are actually prepared to face every crisis in our life. The cost of living is one of them. So, when you face the crisis of the cost of living, you take it as an opportunity. If you view the other videos, this is what I've been saying consistent. The cost of living is a crisis. It's an opportunity for you to access new and exciting things. And you only live once. You have a choice. You can choose to live, or you can choose to just die. And this video is here to say dying is not an option. It doesn't matter how the situation is hard, how hard the situation is. You are there to contribute. You are the best. No one, there are 8 billion people. No one is like you. You are the only one. You're different. And that's what the government, whichever government you are, the government has been saying, you are an individual. So you have to be your best, at your best, in doing what you can to be happy. Because your life is about happiness. Your life is worth nothing if you're not happy. And you are happy if you have peace. You have peace if you have good relationship with other people. And also if you have access to resources to support your life. Because you cannot be happy if you don't have friends. Your family, your friends. Potentially, human beings are supposed to be your friends. Your family are supposed to be your friend. And anywhere you see a human being, such a person should be your friend. They are supposed to make you happy. If that doesn't happen, it means we have a problem with our culture. I've been talking about something called the cultural economy, which means the way people relate with one another. If they relate peacefully, then they are culturally sound. If they relate poorly with one another, the culture is corrupt. Is bankrupted. Now, when I started speaking about the cost of living, I began by suggesting for people to access their websites, because everything is now online. Physical offices are closing down across the globe. Everybody, if you're working or if you're retiring, if you're disabled, if you're a child, even children have small little computers. They play games on computers, on their mobile phones, on their devices. The world has changed. It's gone technological. So if you want information, go online. Even work is now something called remote working. It's changing. So we need to adapt to change. As changes occur, we need to adapt to changes with technology, using telephone, and especially the internet. The internet is the number one. So every government of the world has a website. In the UK where I live, it's called Gov. I think it's Gov UK. Gov.uk. There you can find the kind of help the government gives for the cost of living. Going forward, when this channel takes off, I'm going to be talking more about the UK situation in terms of the kind of help available. But I've already, throughout this program, I've been actually explaining how the government works. And the cost of living is a problem people need quick solutions to. There are quick solutions available. You can get money from the government, free money. You can get a job, you can work, you can set up a business. That's some people, I got some feedback. Some people were asking me about the way forward. You find work, find employment, find self-employment. If you have money, invest it. But I've also said the cost of living affect people as a crisis because they are on low income. I know it is not easy for people to accept the real world sometimes. People struggle when you say, when you remind them of poverty. You say, you have this little money, you're getting £50,000 per annum, you're poor. In the sense that you can only use £50,000 to buy a house in the UK. When I talk of pound, I'm talking about the United Kingdom, Britain. And it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can actually cross-reference pounds with your currency. Just go online, and within seconds you will see the currency exchange rate. If you say you use shillings, you use franc in France, or euro, or whatever money you use in your country, just go online and cross-reference in terms of the exchange rate. You will know rough estimate by rough estimate what you're getting in your country in terms of value, monetary value. So the cost of living is about income, and income actually relates to what you get and what goes out, and what comes in and what goes out. So the cost of living, you look at income, also you look at expenditure. Sometimes you can look at debt. Sometimes you look at the finances. There's something called financial capability. How do you do budgeting? How do you manage your money? How do you prioritize your bills, for example, and your debt? How do you prioritize your debts? These are some of the skills you need now during the cost of living. It's an opportunity for you to manage your finances. Whether you work, whether you don't work, whether you are in the developed world or you are in the developing world, such as in Africa or in Europe, America. If you're in a big country, developed country, you probably have something called welfare state or welfare benefits. If you don't work, you get welfare benefit. You get help with housing, you get help with council tax. If you're in the UK, if you're in America, probably there are a mixture of all sorts of things the government gives to help people. Go online and find that help. But I've been focusing at this stage of this program to actually awaken people. People need to wake up to know that the government, you know, the government is focusing on empowering its citizens. Empowerment means you depend on yourself. Self-dependency. That's what empowerment means. Everything the government does is focused right now, is focused on the empowerment of individuals, of family, children. Children need to be empowered as well, because children need to grow up knowing they should learn how to depend on themselves in one way or the other. Parents may help them, but increasingly families are actually falling apart. So children are being exposed. Because if you go around town, as you are, or in villages, you find more and more single parents, mostly single mothers. But increasingly, you got single fathers as well, because the mothers are also living fathers with children. So the family is actually falling apart, which is not good for children. It's not good for adults also, because the family is supposed to be where you find comfort and protection, security, social security, cultural protection. In places where, like Africa, where community is very important, families are very important, this is all the more, because in Africa there is no welfare benefit. There used to be some welfare state, like state schools, hospitals, public transport, and some element of public housing used to be there. But all this changed when the funding formula from the IMF and the World Bank changed also. Because the IMF and the World Bank instructed African governments to build infrastructure and capital. So that something called revenue funding is lacking in Africa. It's almost zero. The other problem with Africa is the civil infrastructure failure. That's why African leaders are now depending on the military system to run Africa, to run individual countries. So when you talk about the rule of law, which is to actually, produce some modicum of accountability, transparency, the functioning of the civil economy is no longer there in Africa, because Africa is, even if there are election is a dummy in Africa. It's just a symbol. It doesn't mean anything, because in Africa the level of dictatorship is very raw. It's militaristic. I've argued elsewhere through this process that democracy is an idea, is an aspiration, is what we hope to achieve. In practice, it doesn't work. Well, it could work, but it's not working at the moment. It just doesn't work at all, because if there was democracy, say in Britain or America, there would not be the cost of living. The cost of living is evident. The cost of living is a crisis. There is the cost of living and the cost of living crisis, which means the condition of the cost of living is unbearable for those who are on low income. That's the idea. So when you talk about the cost of living, it simply means people who are on the lowest of the income scale are the ones suffering the most. But the middle class are now feeling the pinch. They're now feeling the pressure, the financial pressure, and that's the whole point. Rich people also suffer in a different way, but they don't suffer a crisis. They don't experience crisis. If they experience crisis, it's not because of the cost of living. It may be because of some other factor. So when we talk about the cost of living, we are only talking about the majority of the population of the world, who are about 90%, which are actually the middle class and the lower class. The upper class, the millionaires and the billionaires, do not experience the crisis, the cost of living. And if you look at the history of society, the history of maybe warfare, maybe economic crisis, such as I'm looking at the financial crisis, which was started in America in 2007, and kind of like between 2007 and 2008, it created a global financial crisis, which are, it's a VR worldwide economic, crisis, and which was actually the worst in this century, in the 21st century, the worst of the worst of the worst of economic crisis. So this happened because because of capitalism. Capitalism is the central system of creating wealth. But because of technology and other factors, technology is a type of wealth. See, science infrastructure is a form of wealth as well. So because there is more wealth, it means there is the pace of change is very fast. So as a characteristical component of capitalism, you get a lot of crises. We see so many events happening now. The climate change, you see the fire in Hawaii. So many people died there. Actually, there was a scorching of the earth there. And so these are some of the dynamics within the modern economy. But every time, whatever crisis, it is the people, the lower class and the middle class are the victims. Even in the world wars, the people who died the most in the First and the Second World War, which was part of the crisis of capitalism, because capitalism is actually conducted by war. War is also seen as peace, which I struggle to really establish as within the logical framing, if you like. I mean, if I'm to frame it within logic, it defies my logic. Because for me, you don't achieve peace by fighting. Your children fighting in the home, if you're a parent, the children fight for no reason. That means our culture is not working, because our culture is supposed to be organic. We grew up. As soon as we become adults, we grow up, including me. I don't think I've grown. The culture is responsible for my infancy. I behave like a child, but I don't really know that well. I really don't realize that, because I don't even accept it. I'm just saying it now because I'm talking about it. I'm trying to be honest. But a lot of the time I'm not really honest about it, because no one is. It is our nature to live in denial. We are immature as human beings. Imagine now, if you are an Elon Musk with a lot of wealth and a lot of power, you take wealth and give to a child like Elon Musk, or you give so much wealth to someone like me. I'm a child also. Me and Elon Musk are the same. Jeff Bezos, Donald Trump. These are actually multi-billionaires. They are the ruling class. Sometimes we focus on the government we elect. The government we elect is a sign of power. It's a symbol. So our election is actually fake. We are involved in a shadow world. Election is just a gimmick, because we elect the government. The government doesn't work for us. We see in the UK, if you ask a government minister about pay, they talk about pay review board. We didn't elect pay review board. We tell the government we need at least, we tell our MPs we need about £30 per hour minimum wage. The MP goes to Parliament, Parliament goes to the government doesn't listen to Parliament. He only listens to the politics of Westminster in the UK. That is in America, in Europe, across the globe, wherever there is democracy, wherever there is in democracy, it is the same. The government do not listen to the people who elect them at all. Remember, your MP's office in the UK or in Africa, in an African country like Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Nigeria, any government, any state has a parliament, an MP, a member of parliament. They are supposed to listen to us, but they use public money to run their offices. In the UK, if you phone your member of parliament now, the chances are you're not going to see him or her. What kind of democracy is that if you cannot really see a member of parliament? Democracy doesn't exist. It's something to make us feel good about life. Because democracy means government of the people, by the people, and for the people. The government in the UK, in the West, especially, I mentioned the West are actually claiming to be democracy. They are not. There was never any democracy. There is a type of rule which is not democracy, which is, you could say, civil, but it is backed by the military. At least it's better than, you could argue that it's better than direct military rule, but it's indirect military rule, because the military power has to be cushioned. I mean, the ruling class, the power, the ruling elite are cushioned, and the country is cushioned by the civil infrastructure. The civil infrastructure, the civil government is a form of dictatorship. It's what I call civil dictatorship. So, because you see, the thing is that there is civil bureaucracy. Civil bureaucracy means dictatorship. It's the same, it's militarist, it's militaristic. But in a civil way, it has been toned down. So the civil system is a watered down version of the military power. But you see, it's so powerful that whether it is militaristic or not, it is dictatorial, because of when Margaret Thatcher of the Conservative Party ruled Britain as the Prime Minister, commentators, actually people who are qualified to speak on this topic, describe Britain as practicing elective dictatorship. That terminology is in every textbook of politics in the UK and across the globe. If you do your research, there is something called elective dictatorship. It happened during the Thatcher years because she overstayed in power. It's now happening with the current Conservative Party. They stayed for so long in power. They begin to produce with the amount of majority they have in power. When Boris Johnson came into power, they produced something resembling an elective dictatorship. That is what I call civil dictatorship, because there is so much concentrating of power in the hand of the Prime Minister, ministers, and members of Parliament on the one hand, within the public echelon of political society. On the other end, we have the economic power, power brokers, people like Elon Musk. I like Elon Musk, actually. I've been reading about him, and I mention his name all the time because I really admire the work he does. And Jeff Bezos of Amazon, Bill Gates, these people are actually extraordinary people. They are the best you can have in a society. Wealth creators. They create wealth. Although my criticism of them is that the way they attitude about wealth is that they treat wealth like a toy. A toy is something people use to play games with. But what they have done in substantive way, what these rich people are doing, they are buying the world. They now own the world, literally. If you speak about the government, to the British government, for example, David Cameron, former Prime Minister of Britain, told us that he's giving our country back. We got so excited in Britain and across the globe, because if Britain does something, America does it, the West, Europe is going to do it. The globe is going to do it. Imagine the government stepping down to give back our country so that we are independent of the government. We rule ourselves. the government is no longer ruling over us. That is the concept. And David Cameron said that we want to give back your schools, your hospitals, your prisons, your police, your army, your military. We are giving back your public transport. We are giving back your money. You are going to give back your land, your wealth. We are giving it back. It's yours now. We got so excited. But the truth is that when David Cameron, former Prime Minister of Britain, of the Conservative Party, David Cameron was declaring the giving back of our country to the British people. But what he didn't understand, what he didn't realize was that in his hands, there was nothing left. His hands were empty. You don't give our country back when you don't have a country to give. You give something you have. The British government no longer has our country. American government no longer has our country. The global government no longer have our country. Our country is sold off to the multi-millionaires, the entrepreneurs. The Elon Musk own our country. The Jeff Bezos own our country. These are some of the richest people on earth. Like Arnold Bernard of France own our country. Mark Zuckerberg, even Donald Trump, Rihanna, Oprah Winfrey. These are multi-billionaires. And also the multi-millionaires, don't ignore them, because these are owners of our country. They own our wealth. They are the 5 and 10% of the population of the world. So there is no country left to give back to the British people, to the American people, the Australian, New Zealand, the Europeans, the Africans. The country is gone. They took our land and sold it away. They took our money and sold it away. They took our cattle, our animals. They took our housing. They took our money, our healthcare, and sold it off to the super rich. The super rich have shut it down. What is left is now a ghost country. It's a ghost country. That's why if you ask the government to explain a simple thing, they are going to explain something you have never heard before. Something so complicated. You ask, I watch news every day. The journalist will ask a politician or a think tank or a multi-billionaires to explain what they are doing. They don't answer the questions at all. They are going to just say whatever comes in their head. They just say anything, and it doesn't matter how much the interviewer tries to get an answer. These people are the best trained on earth. They know how to avoid. They only learn one thing. If you're a politician, you only learn one skill: how to avoid answering questions. And that's what media skill means, unfortunately. And that is also evidence of a broken culture. Because that actually, a broken culture is responsible for the violence. Why is Russia fighting Ukraine? And if you think the war between Ukraine and Russia is the only one, or is the last one, and then look at North Africa now with Niger. Niger just committed a military coup. They are at war. Look at the history of humanity. We have been fighting day and night. Even if whether we have guns and bombs or not, we are now using science and technology. See, I personally think one day we will wake up and discover that the government has actually weaponized the weather, the climate. I hope climate change is created by something else. I hope it is not being created deliberately by the government. When I say the government, I mean private government, because the public government is now closed down. What is left is now it's to be cleaned. I mean, the last time I saw the Health Secretary in the UK was talking about improving. I can't remember exactly what the word he used, the expression he used. I can't remember, but what he was saying was, sick people are now going to be treated at home. Sick people are going to be treated at home. If you're sick, your home is going to be your hospital. Now this works for rich people because they have money. The reason the government is now sending people home because there is no money left to finance public sector. There is an agenda to close down the public sector, and that means whatever policy the government does, it avoids investing in the revenue component of the public sector. The revenue expenditure means the money you spend to provide frontline services like medicine, bed, ambulance, recruiting more doctors, nurses, and health workers. The reason there are no doctors, the reason there are no health workers in the hospital, because the hospital is shutting down. And the best way to shut it down is to stop investing in the revenue. If you don't invest in the revenue, it destroys the service. And that's what the government has done. Is deliberate. That's the only way to shut down the public sector. You don't invest in the revenue. They are investing in capital, because the capital, like buildings, like research facilities, equipment, these can be actually sold or it can be destroyed. You can lock down the building even if it is new, because you're saving money. It's empty. If you go to the tax offices, because one of the ways of shutting down the public sector is shutting down the tax office, because tax office is the only source of revenue for the public sector. If you switch it off, it's like draining human life, or the life of an animal. If you drain it of blood, if you actually take all the you drain all the drugs, all the blood from a human body, that person is going to die. The system of economy, the public economy especially, also the private, if you stop funding it, you stop life. And that's how to shut it down, to kill it. If you want to kill the public sector, don't fund it. And if you shut down the tax offices, you destroy the service. Destroy the tax office so that it doesn't function. So there is income tax, which we sooner or later we won't be paying income tax, because the employment sector is going to shut down. As soon as we get technology to replace human labor, nobody's going to work across the globe. That is what is coming, and that's why now it's so difficult to find work. Everywhere you go, you cannot find work because of technology. In the UK, it's admin work, which used to be young people used to, leaving university used to actually depend on admin work, banking, retail. They're now shutting down. We have less than 1% of admin work in the UK because the computer is now doing admin work. I work as an advisor, legal advisor. I do my own admin work because of computer, using the internet and things like that. So what you find is change, and more and more, you're going to have less and less of employment involving human labor, including the military system, the police, prison, hospital. There are going to be no doctors in the courts. There are going to be no lawyers, because the system is going to be mechanized. the machine is going to do the work, which is a good thing. Humans don't have to work. But because of cultural violence, people who should get help are not going to get help. People who are violent are going to destroy the economy. And in the process, 90% of the people are going to die. Because if you cannot access livelihood, you are going to die. And it's beginning now. The cost of living is a sign of the times. It's a sign of the times. It's the process, it's the beginning now of the end of the working economy, the employment economy. Because the primary source of income for middle and lower class is actually employment and self-employment. Employment is obvious. You go to work for somebody pays your salary. And that's the source of income. And employment, I am referring to small and medium business, self-employment. When I talk about self-employment, I'm talking about small and medium businesses. These are actually the middle class, and some of them are actually working class, even if they're self-employed. You have somebody working, it's a self-employed, who is a cleaner. He or she cleans the private homes, or even offices, public or private offices, or domestic cleaners. They get paid, and that's their livelihood. They have to pay an accountant to do their books, and they have to report their earnings, pay taxes, national insurance if they are earning enough. And these are actually people who are not rich. Some of them are on welfare benefit, even if they're working, because what they earn from their employment is not enough. So the government tops up their employment by benefit. Benefit is also a source of income. Benefit includes state pension. If you retire, what you get is actually state benefit. It's welfare benefit. And if you're sick, you get welfare benefit for sickness. If you're a child, you get welfare benefit for the child, qualifying children, child benefit. So these are actually sources of income in the developed world. In Africa, there is no child benefit. And because the government told African leaders not to invest on welfare. Welfare economy means employment should not be invested in. Revenue sector should not be invested in. That's why if you go to Africa, you don't get public transport. It's not there. Public transport is no longer there. If you have money, you can travel on a train. If you don't, you won't. And there are many people who can afford to live in good property. If you see cities and towns built, such as in Rwanda, in Nigeria, Ghana, these are actually empty cities. It's happening in Europe, also in Spain. In different parts of the world, there are empty properties being built as investments. This is capital investment in property which people don't live in. They are empty. They just built to store money. So you could say there's a conspiracy to cut off the majority of the population from wealth. And that's why there's the cost of living. And that's what I'm talking about. You need to look after yourself. You need to provide for yourself. You need to start thinking how to access wealth. Stop thinking about the government. The government is not there to help anyone. The government doesn't help anybody. It doesn't even help the rich. Because the rich are now the government. They help themselves. The government we used to see is now closed down. You can actually see, every time you cannot access energy because they're supposed to get free energy. See, the cost of living, you can't afford your energy. You can't afford food. You cannot afford hospital bills. If you phone your GP, your doctor, your doctor, you can't get appointments. You can't get public housing. That means the government is no longer there. You go to claim benefit, they're not going to give you benefit. It's there, but they're no longer giving it. It's there on paper. If you go onto the government website, you're going to see there's information there telling you there is benefit. But if it is almost impossible to get any benefit at all, it is as good as know that, I mean, if the government is giving you help, you should actually phone the DWP, the Department of Work and Pensions in the UK, or in America, or in any country you live in. You should just make a phone call. Oh, I lost my job today. I need some help. And then, as soon as you put your phone down, 2 minutes later, 3 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 minute later, you should get money into your bank account from the government. Should be as simple as that. Or, okay, the DWP in the UK, that's what we call them. They are the government department which provide employment. They provide benefit if you're not working, and all the other benefits. Because income, we are talking about employment for income and benefit for income. So if there is no employment for income, you get benefit for income. And as soon as you can go back to work, the benefit stops. And then you get, it's supposed to be a good system. Now, if you lose your job today because you're sick, because you're being laid off, because employer can no longer afford to hire you, or for whatever reason you lose your job, there shouldn't be complication because you have to survive. And even if it is your fault, even if it is because of you misbehaved at work and you are fired, you have been sent home because you did something wrong, the DWP should not ask why you left work. And this DWP in the UK, the DWP means the Department for Work and Pensions. You work and you retire. That's what the department is for. It is there to help people who work and people who retire. It used to be for employment and for pension. Now it is actually is now responsible for giving benefits. It used to be separate. The Department for Social Security used to be different, just for people who do not work. For whatever reason, they don't even ask for work. Do you work? I don't. They don't bother you. But now, there is something called in the UK. There's something called intentional unemployment. See, intentional joblessness. So it's an excuse by the government to refuse giving money to people who need help. Because you see, imagine you lose your job and the government is not giving you benefit. What is going to happen to you? And also, if you are employed, the chances you are not going to find work anywhere because of technology. Also, because of it's mainly technology, really. If you don't find work, you need technology because the economy is expanding. Wealth is growing, but the wealth is now being kept by the treasury. The treasury is now keeping this money for the super rich. The super rich are holding this money. They are not allowing the 90% of the population to access wealth. So the people are going to be poor, impoverished, because they cannot access employment, because they cannot access benefit. The government has shut down employment, has shut down benefit. You go to try and get benefit. You are told, because I work at the DWP, I give advice there. Or I gave advice there before the lockdown. So I gave advice there or on benefit. So I give advice on benefit now because I work with the Refugee Council. I give housing advice on that on benefit, on employment, on income maximization, and things like that. I know how to look for this information, and you also should be able to look for it if you want to look for it. But if you're working, keep your job. Pray that you don't lose your job. And if you have worked for 2 years, yet you don't have any right for unfair dismissal, that is part of the problem with employment policy. This is because employment is shutting down. Employment is a part of the public sector. It's shutting down. Private sector don't create jobs unless they need employees. The government can create jobs if it wants to, because it's using public money. But not anymore. It's not happening now. Government is now shutting down employment sector. The private sector, if they employ you, then they're employing you because they need you. The public sector, if they employ you because they need you. The language of employment has changed. It used to be welfare focused. It's now business focused. Business now focus on wealth. When the government say they are growing, they are developing the economy. They're providing, policies for economic growth. They are right, because the economy grows very quickly because of technology, because of skilled workers, people who are highly trained, accountants, engineers, doctors, lawyers, and all these other experts, because they are technocrats, they are professionals, they are very efficient as workers. But this is also shutting down. The reason it's shutting down because of technology. Technology is taking over. The work is still there, but it's going to be less and less and less. But also, the government is also shutting down. It's going to be nothing and nothing and nothing. The private sector is also closing down. It's going to be there's going to be wealth. In 100 years, 200, 300, 400 years, there will be no economy, but there will be wealth. Economy means trade. Trading in wealth. That's what economy means. If the machine is producing goods and service for free, then there will be no selling and buying. You don't need to buy, because selling something means it costs you to produce it. Now, if you produce goods and services in abundance, because you are a machine, everything people need is produced for free. You don't sell it, people get it for nothing. And that will be wealth, a system of wealth. You can call it economy if you want. But to me, economy involves finance, it involves trade. If you take finance and trade, then you can call it wealth if you want. Because you have land, you have houses, you have medicine, you have machines, you have transportation. You can go anytime, anywhere you want for free. That is the future with technology running the system, the social system, running the world. Let me put it that way. The technology running the world will be exciting, will be good, but if there is violence, then it's going to be worse. And that's what I've been talking about. We say, okay, there is a lot of hope, there is awful signs in the world, in every country, but because culturally we are struggling as people, we are fighting, we're always fighting. Fighting is the product of hatred. If you love somebody, you don't fight them. You live with them peacefully. So our culture is supposed to teach us love and peace. But it is now teaching us the opposite. You look at TV. I mean, I'm trying not to be pessimistic. I'm trying to be optimistic, but I am thinking, because I'm optimistic, I believe we can do things here and there and really help ourselves to get out of trouble as human species. And I know I've been trying to talk about the global financial crisis, but I'm talking about the global financial crisis as it's a complement to talking about the cost of living. I want us to look at the global financial crisis and relate that to the cost of living, because it's a crisis. What I'm interested in is actually a crisis. When there is a crisis, there is displacement. For example, if you're sick, that's a crisis. You are going to move from your house either temporarily or fairly permanently, depending how sick you are. If you're sick a little bit, you're going to move from your home to the hospital. The hospital is going to be your home for maybe an hour or 2 hours. You get your medication, then you come back home. You're displaced from the hospital and you are restored to your home. And if you continue to be sick, you're going to be moving to and fro and to and fro. But there's emotional displacement also, because you're experiencing a crisis. You're psychologically, you move from focusing on normal life. You begin to focus on solving your health condition. Taking your medication. You take time of work. Depending on how sick you are, take time of work. Sometimes you're advised to take 2 or 3 times of work. I mean, you're displaced from your work into living a different type of life. Also, it's other mental, emotional or physical displacement in terms of crisis. And this is what I'm trying to pursue as a theme. And that's why it is interesting for me to talk about different things, different crises. I talk about Brexit. I'm now talking about the global financial crisis called the credit crunch. The credit crunch refers to the global financial crisis of 2007 and 2008. And that actually is still impacting the cost of living crisis of today. And that's why it's linked. We call it troubles, economic troubles from the global financial crisis up to now, because we haven't recovered. Especially people who have low income, the middle class and the lower class haven't really recovered. They normally don't recover at all from any crisis. It doesn't matter which crisis it is. People who do not have power always are the victims. The main victim are people without power, and they are the majority, the 90% of the population. The 10 and 5%, the 10 or 5% of the population, the millionaires tend to weather the storm more effectively. And that's why it is really important for us to pay attention to our lives. If you want to give up on your life, it's up to you, but it's not worth it. You should live in hope, because we have better days ahead. And next time we meet, we're going to look at specifics, some specifics, because every time I feel I need to really discuss this thing, and so that people read people who can really have control over their lives. And people, because if people are empowered, what I'm going to encourage people to really learn about these issues. Because if you become an expert on this issue, if you are an expert, then you are empowered. Because if you're empowered, I mean, you rule over yourself. You no longer depend on the government. You no longer depend on anybody else. You depend on yourself. It's like self-emancipation. And the more information you have, the more knowledge you gain, the freer you are. That's what freedom is. You're free from the state. You're free from the super rich. You have money. You have your information. You understand what is happening. You can plan to get out of poverty, and hopefully, getting out of poverty is number one priority. Because there's a lot of wealth anyway. There is more wealth than we realize. Nobody should be poor in the modern world. Nobody should be poor in Africa. If you tell this to an African who live in a poor area, they will just think you're from another planet. because the level of poverty in Africa is extraordinary. It's so bad that people should never live like that in the world of today. There is so much wealth in the world. In Britain, in America, the word poverty should not be even mentioned. But it is there because our culture has been. And we need to really learn. We need to really think. We need to use our brain. We have an opportunity. There is hope. There's hope because we think. We look at your child. Look at the people around you. The people when they go to school, when they pass their exams, they are clever. It is that brain they have, it's the intelligence which separates us from other creatures. It is the thing that keeps us alive, our intelligence. That's why we should be thinking all the time. We need to change our habits. We need to change the way we look at the world. We need to focus more and get more energy, get more strength. And that is what we need to really do to survive. Because we only live once. And there is hope because, going forward, there is a lot of scope for discovering new things. And at the moment, scientists are working to discover, to actually begin developing means of slowing down aging. They're trying to even stop aging or even to reverse aging. If that happens, you're going to live longer. 300 years, 400 years, 500 years, 1,000 years. Imagine we are living 1,000 years or even 10,000 years. We need to do more with our lives. And some people within the scientific communities are now saying death is an accident. And because life is information. The data. We are just composed of data. Everything you see around you is data. So we are actually databases, information. So when we die, information don't die. So if in the future we find, you may think this is science fiction, but it is not. This is becoming more and more scientific theory. And we need to pay attention to this because it gives us hope for the future. Because even if we die, if we are lucky, our descendants, people who come after us, people who follow us, will, I think our descendants, our ancestors, our descendants, people who we are going to leave behind, we will be their ancestors, and they're going to be our descendants. If we are lucky, in maybe 500 years, 1,000, 10,000 years to come, they may discover instruments, maybe medicine, to bring us back to life. I believe that very strongly because the moment I learned that life is information, data is not destroyed. I am being told by experts that the reason people die, there is a cell in the brain which switches off our life, that computer. When we die, our body is trying to save us from destruction. They want to protect our data. They don't want death. When our body begins to malfunction, our data begin to be destroyed. So that body rushes and switches off, so we die. So the death is trying to preserve us, keep us alive, switch our body off. And because our body has failed, and it's trying to protect our life and the information, the data we have, so that it's not destroyed. Which means our body knows that death is temporary. So scientists are now discovering this information is from the expert. And I'm not going to give you this evidence. If I have to, it means I have to do a research. And doing research is okay, but it's not that easy. But if you want to know more about human data, I don't know if it is that what you should look for. I will try to look for this information next time maybe. Leave a comment below if you have heard of this, the fact that people are information, and when you die, you're trying to preserve your data so that you can be brought back to life theoretically. When that happens, when we find that equipment, that technology 100 years to 100 years, 10,000, 10, maybe a million years from now, our ancestors, our descendants will bring us back to life. Well, it's not alive. But whether we are alive, or especially when we are alive, we have to learn peace. Because if we cannot learn peace, we are going to be in pain. If we are in pain, whether we are alive, especially when we live long, we are going to be so bored that we are going to want to die. And there are people alive today, when they hear that, scientists are now working to extend life by 3 times or 4 times, which means we live about 100 years now, which means we can potentially, be living 500 years. Some people are not opposed to that. What are we going to do? We're going to be so bored. I mean, if you're bored of life, what kind of person are you? Are you an alien or somebody? Human being will always do everything to stay alive. So let us be optimistic. And we live in a very dangerous, very violent time. You see in Afghanistan, you saw in Iraq, you live in Africa, military coup, lot of political violence in the Middle East, Israel, the Arab world, and now in Ukraine. Ukraine is fighting China, and also nature is fighting us. The tsunamis, storms, fire is burning us. The UN, United Nations boss, said we are crossing from global warming to global boiling. But if the earth starts boiling us, what are we going to do? We have to be optimistic, and as human beings, let us focus on survival. And that's why I'm doing this video. Please subscribe, leave a comment below. And let's carry on. I will be using different tools to illustrate the theme of crisis and displacement. And the cost of living is current, it's contemporary. After the cost of living, from experience, there's going to be another crisis. I don't know when the cost of living is going to stop. It's a crisis. The cost of living has always been there. It will be there, but it's a crisis. It may actually get a little better. But trust me, if I'm still alive, if we are still alive, we are going to leave the crisis of the cost of living. And as soon as we leave the crisis of the cost of living, we are going to get into another crisis. I don't know what it is yet. Because when we left COVID-19, which was a crisis, we went straight to the cost of living via the crisis in Ukraine, the war between Ukraine and Russia. That was also a crisis. That crisis is responsible for the current cost of living. But we carried forward that troubles from COVID-19. COVID-19 was already disrupting the food supply, and commodities. The small and medium businesses were already shutting down because of COVID-19. Even big businesses, some big businesses also shut down, and the same is now carrying on. Before COVID-19, we had Brexit, which became global because of globalization. A problem created by Britain, by the Conservative Party, Brexit, created a lot of problems. It was a major crisis in Europe, and that affected the global economy. See, and before Brexit, we had what did we have? Before Brexit, we had something else. We had the financial crisis, the economic crisis, which I'm talking about now. The global financial crisis. That created so much problem globally. Remember, anything happening in one country now will go global in a matter of months. So something happening in Africa, Ukraine, America, Britain, is going to affect the globe. So let us finish with the cost of living. It's a crisis. As soon as we finish it, let the cost of living crisis prepare us as individuals to face the next crisis. I don't know what it is. If you know what the next crisis is going to be, leave a comment below and let us know. Click the notification bell for a new video. Join in the conversation. Hopefully we will improve the way we do presentation going forward. But until that improvement or changes occur, please subscribe so that we grow as a channel, and share with family and friends. Do whatever you want to do. Watch the video. Thank you. Bye bye.